As we approach 2025, imagine your mind as a garden. What you allow to grow, whether positive or negative, shapes your life. Just like weeds quietly overtaking a garden, unhealthy thoughts, habits, and relationships can subtly take root, draining your energy and peace. But what if this year you chose to reclaim your mental space? In this exploration, we'll focus on 11 small shifts that can make a big impact, helping you let go of the things that weigh you down, such as comparison, perfectionism, and anger. This journey is about steady, intentional progress, a path towards cultivating a mind that is calm, focused, and resilient, guided by the Stoic belief that mastery of the mind is achieved through daily practice and small decisions. Let go of the need for validation. Imagine walking through a dense forest at dawn. The mist clings to the ground, and the path ahead is unclear. Every so often you pause, turning back to see if someone is following, if someone is watching, nodding, approving your every step. This is what seeking validation feels like, moving forward, but never truly free. The need for validation is a tether to others' opinions, a silent surrender of your autonomy. It whispers that your worth lies not in your own assessment, but in the applause of the crowd. Stoicism challenges this deeply ingrained tendency. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher-emperor, wrote, "It never ceases to amaze me. We all love ourselves more than other people, but care more about their opinion than our own." To let go of this need is to reclaim your sovereignty. It's not about rejecting feedback or dismissing others' perspectives outright, but rather understanding that true contentment cannot be outsourced. Others' approval is fleeting, fickle, and often uninformed. But your own sense of purpose? That is enduring. The intriguing part? When you stop chasing validation, you paradoxically gain it. People are drawn to those who walk their path confidently, untethered by the opinions of the crowd. But by then, you won't care, because your approval will be enough. True freedom lies in living according to your values, not the shifting standards of others. Letting go of validation doesn't mean indifference to the world. It means choosing authenticity over applause, conviction over compliance. And in doing so, you may find the applause you no longer seek. Practice silence and restraint. Silence is not the absence of noise, it is the presence of control. Picture a monk sitting still in a storm, unmoved by the howling winds and lashing rain. This is the essence of silence and restraint, not a withdrawal from life but a mastery over its chaos. The Stoics believed that words and actions, like arrows, should only be released with precision and purpose. Epictetus reminded us, "Let silence be your general rule, or say only what is necessary and in a few words." In a world brimming with chatter, where voices clamor for attention, silence becomes a rebellion, an act of strength. Practicing silence is more than refraining from speech, it's about tuning into the deeper conversations of life. What happens when you don't rush to fill the void with your opinions or assert yourself in every disagreement? You hear more. You learn more. You become a mystery, an enigma in a sea of noise. Restraint is its sibling virtue. It's knowing when to act and, just as importantly, when not to. It's resisting the pull of instant gratification, the allure of impulsive words, or the temptation to fight every battle. To practice restraint is to wield power without flaunting it, to leave the unnecessary unsaid, and to act with deliberate intent. Here's the intrigue. Silence and restraint are not signs of weakness. They are displays of immense strength. A quiet person in a noisy room commands more attention than the loudest voice. A restrained response in the face of provocation disarms more effectively than an outburst. The world thrives on impulsiveness. When you practice these virtues, you become exceptional, a calm eye in the storm, a stillness others are drawn to but cannot shake. Silence and restraint don't diminish your presence, they amplify it. You speak less, but your words carry weight. You act sparingly, but your actions resonate. And in mastering yourself, you master the moment. Pursue meaningful goals. Imagine standing on the deck of a ship, staring out at a vast, open sea. The horizon calls to you, but without a destination, the ship drifts aimlessly. This is life without meaningful goals, a journey without purpose, where effort is spent, but progress is never made. The Stoics teach us that to live well, we must chart a course towards something that matters. A meaningful goal isn't just a milestone, it's a compass. It points toward what is essential, what aligns with your values, and what resonates deeply with your soul. The Stoics were not interested in fleeting pleasures or shallow achievements. Instead, they urged us to aim higher, toward goals that cultivate virtue, serve others, and endure the test of time. Why does meaning matter? Because it transforms effort into fulfillment. A person toiling for mere wealth or fame may find success but feel hollow. In contrast, one striving to better themselves or the world around them experiences a profound sense of purpose. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Stop wandering about. You aren't going to read your own epitaph. Stop being frivolous. Do what you were meant to do." Pursuing meaningful goals is not without struggle. The path will test you, strip away distractions, and demand resilience. Yet, this is where the intrigue lies. The more challenging the journey, the greater the transformation. It is in the pursuit of what matters most that you discover your true self, your strengths, your passions, and your ability to endure. Ask yourself, what are you chasing? Is it worth your time, energy, and life? To pursue a meaningful goal is to live intentionally, to rise above the trivial, and to direct your finite days towards something that leaves a legacy, not in the world, but in your character. And here's the ultimate revelation: meaningful goals are not an end. They are a mirror reflecting who you are and who you aspire to become. They are the fire that burns away complacency and the anchor that steadies you in life's storms. When you pursue them, you don't just achieve, you evolve. And that evolution is the greatest reward of all. Master your anger. Picture a raging fire, consuming everything in its path. Anger is that fire, destructive, uncontrollable, and indiscriminate. Yet, hidden within its chaos is tremendous energy, a force that, if harnessed, can illuminate rather than destroy. The Stoics understood this dual nature of anger and offered profound insights on transforming it from a master into a servant. Anger often feels justified, even righteous. It surges through you, promising power and resolution. But what does it deliver? Rarely clarity. Rarely wisdom. As Seneca warned, anger is like those ruins which fall upon the very thing they crush. In its grip, we act impulsively, speak carelessly, and sow regret. To master your anger is not to suppress it but to understand it. First, recognize its root. Anger often stems from unmet expectations, a bruised ego, or the illusion of control. Why rage against the inevitable, the unchangeable, or the ignorance of others? The Stoics remind us that these external events hold no real power over us, only our response does. Now imagine channeling that fiery energy into something constructive. Anger, when tamed, becomes a motivator for justice, a drive for self-improvement, or a catalyst for courage. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." The realization that your anger serves no purpose unless directed wisely is liberating. Mastering anger begins with restraint. In the heat of the moment, pause. Breathe. Let the fire subside into embers. This isn't weakness, it's the strength to rule your passions rather than let them rule you. Next, reflect. What truly matters here? Is this a fight worth engaging, or can wisdom and perspective offer a better path? The mastery of anger is not a denial of your humanity but an elevation of it. To remain calm amid provocation, to choose reason over rage, and to wield emotion rather than be wielded by it. This is the mark of a philosopher king, a soul in harmony with itself. Here's the paradox. The less you let anger control you, the more powerful you become. For in the absence of rage lies clarity, and in clarity lies the ability to act, not recklessly, but righteously. To master your anger is to become a master of yourself, and in that mastery lies unshakable freedom, validation, and self-worth. Imagine you're standing on a vast stage, lights shining in your eyes, waiting for the applause to come. The moment you step into the spotlight, you seek the approval of the audience. You want their validation, their recognition of your worth. But what if the audience were silent? What if they didn't clap at all? Would your performance lose its value? Would you stop believing in your own greatness? This is the paradox of validation. the silent force that drives us to seek external acknowledgement of our worth. From the moment we are born, we crave validation. We look to parents, peers, colleagues, even strangers to affirm our value. It's not necessarily wrong to seek appreciation, but when we become dependent on it, we surrender our power. The Stoics saw validation as a fleeting and unreliable source of self-worth. Marcus Aurelius famously said, "The opinion of others is none of your business." When we tether our sense of value to external sources, whether it's the praise of others, achievements, or material success, we place our worth in unstable hands. External validation, like the applause of the audience, is temporary. It fades away. And what happens when it does? We feel diminished. We question our worth. We become trapped in a cycle of needing others to constantly reassure us of what we should already know. Self-worth, however, is an internal compass. It is not contingent upon others' opinions, achievements, or accolades. It is a reflection of who you are at your core. The Stoics believe that true worth comes from virtue, from acting with integrity, wisdom, courage, and justice. It's not what the world says about you that matters. It's what you believe about yourself that shapes your reality. To live without depending on external validation is to stand in the spotlight of your own truth. It's the courage to say, "I am enough, regardless of who sees or acknowledges me." When you no longer seek validation from others, you reclaim your power. Your worth doesn't fluctuate with the winds of others' opinions. It becomes unshakable, rooted in your own actions and values. Imagine how liberating it would feel to stop living for applause. You begin to act with purpose, not to please, but to express your deepest convictions. You begin to create not for recognition, but for fulfillment. In this space, you are free from the whims of external approval. You are no longer a slave to the world's shifting standards of success or beauty. The Stoic wisdom here is profound. You are enough. Your worth is not a commodity for others to give or take away. It is the quiet confidence that arises from living in alignment with your principles, the courage to walk your path without looking back for approval, and the understanding that your value is inherent, not earned. When you cultivate this inner validation, you become your own greatest supporter. You cease seeking the applause and instead offer it to yourself. And when the world does respond with appreciation, it is no longer the thing that defines you. It is simply a reflection of your authentic self, unshaken and unwavering. Perfectionism, the illusion of the perfect. Perfectionism is a dangerous siren song, seductive and alluring, drawing you towards a place where every detail is meticulously crafted, every decision is flawless, and every outcome is flawless. It promises you mastery, success, and satisfaction. But like the mythical sirens, it leads you not to triumph, but to an endless cycle of frustration, exhaustion, and self-doubt. What is perfectionism really? It is the relentless pursuit of an ideal that cannot exist. It is the belief that perfection is within your reach, just around the corner, if only you could work a little harder, refine your work a little more, or fix just one more thing. It's the belief that only flawless execution is worthy of recognition or that anything less than the perfect result is a failure. It's a mindset that traps you in a never-ending loop of trying to measure up to an ever-elusive standard. In many ways, perfectionism can feel like a noble pursuit. After all, who doesn't want to do their best? Who doesn't want their efforts to be praised, their achievements to stand out as extraordinary? But the Stoics, wise in their understanding of human nature, warned us against this trap. Epictetus, one of the greatest Stoic philosophers, put it simply, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." The perfectionist, however, believes that how things should happen is more important than how they do happen. They measure their value not by how they adapt to the challenges of life but by their ability to control every aspect of it. Here's the catch: perfection doesn't exist in the world as we know it. It is an illusion, a mental construct created to distract us from the beauty of imperfection. The Stoics saw life as inherently messy, unpredictable, and beyond our control. They didn't believe in achieving perfection in the traditional sense. Rather, they focused on achieving virtue, which is the act of living in accordance with reason, embracing challenges, and accepting what cannot be changed. The Stoic approach to life is grounded in the idea that how you meet the inevitable flaws and imperfections of the world defines your character, not your ability to avoid them. Think about the last time you worked tirelessly on a project, spent hours perfecting every detail, and yet still felt dissatisfied with the result. The perfectionist's mind will tell you that the next time will be different, that this small detail, this one thing, if just done a little bit better, will make everything right. But in reality, you'll end up chasing that perfect vision forever, never truly satisfied, always feeling that there's more to be done. The truth is, the pursuit of perfection often leads to procrastination, paralysis, and burnout. It stifles creativity and causes a person to focus so intensely on what they cannot control that they miss the joy of the process itself. Perfectionism is also often rooted in the fear of judgment. The need for external validation becomes inextricably tied to the idea that only the perfect will be recognized and appreciated. But the Stoic perspective invites us to shift our focus from the judgment of others to the judgment of our own character. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher king, wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." When we focus on internal growth and align ourselves with our true values, we stop trying to control the uncontrollable external world, and instead, we accept the beauty of imperfection as part of our humanity. So, how do we escape the grip of perfectionism? The key is acceptance. Acceptance that perfection is not something to strive for, but something to release. Instead of aiming for flawless execution, aim for progress. Instead of fixating on what's wrong, focus on what you can learn from each attempt. Strive for excellence, but know that excellence does not require perfection. In fact, it often thrives in imperfection. When you release the need for perfection, you allow yourself to be human. You embrace the journey, with all its messiness, its mistakes, and its beautiful moments of growth. You begin to see that life isn't about crafting a perfect outcome, it's about finding meaning in the process, joy in the effort, and wisdom in the reflection. Imagine living in a world where you are free from the tyranny of perfectionism. Where every mistake becomes a lesson, every failure a stepping stone to improvement. When you let go of the need to be perfect, you discover a deeper, more authentic version of yourself, a version that is resilient, creative, and ever-evolving. And in this space, the pressure lifts, and you begin to realize that the true beauty of life isn't in achieving perfection, but in embracing the imperfection and learning to navigate it with grace. Expectations, the silent architects of disappointment. Expectations are like invisible strings, pulling at our hearts, shaping our perceptions, and influencing our every action without us even realizing it. They are the quiet architects of our daily lives, designing the blueprints of what we believe should happen. But the problem with expectations is that they are built on assumptions, and assumptions are rarely aligned with reality. When we set an expectation, we are essentially constructing a vision of the future, a future that we believe should unfold according to our desires, preferences, and ideals. This vision becomes so vivid, so real in our minds, that we begin to treat it as a certainty, a given. We expect things to go the way we plan, the way we hope, or the way we believe they ought to be. But the world, as it often does, has other plans. The Stoics understood the volatility of life. They knew that the only certainty we have is the uncertainty of what's to come. They taught that our suffering is not caused by external events themselves but by our reactions to those events, especially when our expectations collide with the unpredictable nature of reality. Marcus Aurelius, ever the philosopher king, wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." In other words, it's not the world that disappoints us. It's our attachment to how we believe it should behave. Consider a moment in your life when you experienced frustration, anger, or sadness. How much of that emotion was tied to an expectation that went unmet? Perhaps you expected a relationship to follow a certain trajectory, a promotion to come at a specific time, or an outcome to be exactly as you envisioned it. When these expectations were not met, it's easy to feel as though something has been taken from you, as though the world has betrayed you. But in reality, it is your expectation, the belief that things should unfold a certain way, that has created the disappointment. This is where the Stoics offer a revolutionary perspective. They did not suggest that we should abandon all hope or desire, but rather that we should focus our expectations on things we can control. The only expectations worth having, they believed, are those grounded in virtue, in the effort to live well, to act justly, and to align with nature. They understood that we cannot control the outcomes of our endeavors, but we can control how we approach them, how we prepare ourselves, and how we respond to whatever comes our way. In the absence of rigid expectations, we make room for a different kind of power, the power to remain flexible, adaptable, and open to whatever life presents. If we expect everything to unfold according to our will, we are setting ourselves up for failure and disillusionment. But if we approach life with the understanding that things may not always go our way, we free ourselves from the tyranny of disappointment. We begin to see the value in the unexpected, the beauty in the uncertain, and the growth that emerges from things not going as planned. The danger of expectations is that they often blind us to the present moment. When we are fixated on what should be, we miss the richness of what is. The world, in all its unpredictability, offers us experiences that can teach us if we allow them to. But when we are consumed by the desire for things to unfold in a specific way, we close ourselves off to the lessons embedded in the moments themselves. Take a moment to reflect. How many times have you been disappointed simply because things didn't go the way you thought they would? What if you could let go of those expectations? What if, instead of expecting perfection, you allowed life to unfold as it is, with all its flaws, uncertainties, and surprises? By doing so, you shift your focus from controlling the uncontrollable to embracing the journey, whatever it may bring. In the end, expectations are not inherently bad, they are a natural part of being human. But when we attach ourselves too firmly to them, they become shackles. When we let go of the need to control outcomes, we open ourselves to a life of possibility, where the unexpected becomes a chance for growth, where the present moment is enough, and where we can learn to respond to life with resilience, grace, and wisdom. By adjusting our expectations, we can align ourselves more fully with the reality of life, not as we wish it to be, but as it truly is. And in this alignment, we find peace, contentment, and a deeper sense of freedom. Change, the unstoppable force that shapes us. Change is the one constant in life, yet it is often the most feared and resisted. We live in a world where stability is sought, where comfort zones are cultivated, and where the status quo is defended. But change is not a distant event that happens in some far-off future. It is the pulse of life itself, the current that carries us whether we're ready or not. It is both the inevitable storm and the gentle breeze shaping the landscape of our lives with relentless persistence. The Stoics understood that change is not something to be feared, but something to be embraced. For them, the key to wisdom and peace lay in the acceptance of change, in understanding that nothing remains the same. Marcus Aurelius, one of the most influential Stoic philosophers, remarked, "Time is a river of passing events, and we are its passengers." His words remind us that we are not in control of the current, but we are the ones carried by it. Consider this: how often do we try to hold on to what is familiar? The people, the situations, the routines that make us feel grounded, safe, and certain. We build our identities around these familiar things, hoping they will be constants in a world that is anything but. But here's the paradox. The very things we cling to the hardest are the things most likely to change. People change, circumstances shift, and even our own desires evolve. The more we try to resist change, the more we suffer from the tension between what is and what we wish could be. Yet change holds the key to growth. Without change, there would be no movement, no evolution, no learning. Imagine a world where everything stayed the same, where the seasons never shifted, where people never grew older, where the ideas of today remained fixed in time. This would be a world devoid of progress, of innovation, and of the rich tapestry of human experience. The Stoics taught that the ability to adapt to change, rather than resist it, is the hallmark of strength and wisdom. The great Stoic philosopher Epictetus famously said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." Change, in and of itself, is neutral. It is neither good nor bad. What matters is how we respond to it. When we face change with open hands, accepting it as an inevitable part of life, we free ourselves from the anxiety and fear that often accompany it. The key is not to fight against change, but to dance with it. Picture a tree in the wind. The tree doesn't resist the wind, it bends and sways, allowing the force of nature to pass through it. It doesn't break because it has learned to yield. The same can be said for us. When we resist change, we create friction. We create pain. But when we learn to yield, to adapt, and to grow with the current of life, we find strength in our flexibility, resilience in our adaptability. Change is also a mirror. It reveals who we truly are. In times of transition, we see our true character. Do we fight against the tide, clinging to the past? Or do we allow ourselves to be shaped by the flow of time, evolving into someone new? Change challenges us to become more authentic, more aligned with our deeper selves. It asks us, who are you when everything around you is in flux? Embracing change also requires a shift in perspective. Instead of viewing change as a threat to our security, we can begin to see it as an opportunity for transformation. In the same way that a caterpillar must undergo radical change to become a butterfly, we too must embrace periods of discomfort and uncertainty to evolve into something greater. The beauty of change lies in its capacity to unlock new possibilities. It is not the end of something, but the beginning of something else, something more aligned with who we are meant to be. In the face of change, we are given two choices: to resist and suffer, or to adapt and grow. The Stoic approach is to accept the ebb and flow of life, to cultivate an inner peace that is not dependent on external circumstances, and to see change not as a force working against us, but as one that can work with us, shaping us into stronger, wiser, and more capable versions of ourselves. In a world defined by change, our task is not to fear it, but to become masters of our response to it. To ride the waves of life, rather than drown in them. To let change be the force that refines us, rather than the one that breaks us. Because in the end, change is not something we can control, but it is something we can choose to embrace. And in embracing it, we find the freedom to live fully, to learn deeply, and to become the person we are meant to be. Gossip, the subtle poison we choose to sip. Gossip, at first glance, may seem like a harmless social pastime, something to fill the silence, bond over shared curiosity, or lighten the mood with a little drama. But beneath its seemingly innocent surface lies a potent and insidious force, one that spreads like wildfire, consuming relationships and reputations with little regard for the damage it leaves behind. In many ways, gossip is a reflection of our deepest insecurities. It thrives in the shadows of our own vulnerabilities, preying on our desire to feel better about ourselves by tearing others down. It's an almost seductive practice, engaging in a conversation where we are the keeper of secrets, the one who knows the hidden truths, the one who is in the know. And for a fleeting moment, it feels empowering. It gives us a sense of control, a sense of belonging, as we partake in the shared knowledge of someone else's flaws, mistakes, or misfortunes. But the cost of this fleeting comfort is far greater than we might initially realize. Gossip, like a virus, spreads rapidly, infecting not only the person being discussed but also the one speaking, and those who are listening. It distorts the truth, exaggerates the details, and often twists facts to fit a narrative that is more entertaining than it is accurate. And once a rumor is planted, it takes on a life of its own, growing, changing, and morphing as it moves from one person to the next. Like a game of broken telephone, the original story becomes increasingly unrecognizable with each retelling, until the very essence of the truth is lost. But why do we gossip? Why do we engage in this behavior, knowing that it has the potential to hurt people? The answer is complex, but at its core, gossip is often a form of escape, an escape from our own discomforts, our own sense of inadequacy. We gossip not just about others but about ourselves, using the misfortunes of others as a shield to protect ourselves from confronting our own shortcomings. It's easier, in many ways, to focus on the failings of others than to face our own weaknesses, fears, and flaws. And yet, the harm of gossip is not only felt by those who are targeted, but also by those who partake in it. The more we engage in gossip, the more we diminish our own character. Every word of gossip erodes the trust and integrity that we have with others. It plants seeds of doubt in the minds of our friends and colleagues, making them wonder what we might be saying about them behind their backs. Trust, once broken, is difficult, if not impossible, to repair. And with each secret shared, each piece of drama magnified, we only reveal our own inner emptiness, our own lack of self-worth. The Stoics had a powerful perspective on this. They understood that gossip, at its heart, is a distraction, a way of avoiding the work that needs to be done within ourselves. Epictetus, in particular, warned against the temptation of engaging in idle chatter and sought to redirect the focus inward. We have 2 ears and 1 mouth, so that we can listen twice as much as we speak. When we engage in gossip, we stop listening, not just to others but to our own inner voices, which are trying to guide us toward growth, wisdom, and self-improvement. Gossip is the noise that drowns out the quieter, more meaningful voices in our lives. There is also the aspect of moral contagion, the idea that when we participate in gossip, we invite a subtle corruption into our own hearts. When we indulge in the flaws, mistakes, or shortcomings of others, we normalize judgment, criticism, and negativity. We start to see people not as whole individuals but as fragments of gossip that we can pick apart and dissect for our own amusement or self-validation. The more we engage in gossip, the easier it becomes to judge others, to speak ill of them, and to lose our empathy. But here's the paradox. The very thing that we often seek through gossip, connection and belonging, can only be found through the opposite approach. True connection comes from deep listening, from understanding others without judgment, from valuing them for who they are rather than what we think of them. When we let go of the urge to gossip, we free ourselves from the chains of judgment and open the door to more meaningful relationships. The question then becomes, what would happen if we chose to redirect our energies away from gossip? What if, instead of speaking about others behind their backs, we spoke directly to them with kindness, curiosity, and respect? What if, instead of bonding over the flaws and mistakes of others, we bonded over shared values, mutual growth, and genuine care? In a world filled with noise, gossip is the echo that distracts us from the work that truly matters. It's a quick fix, a momentary relief, but it leaves us emptier than before. The more we gossip, the more we contribute to the world's cynicism, division, and distrust. But when we choose to silence the chatter, when we speak with purpose, and when we listen with an open heart, we change the narrative, not just for others, but for ourselves. Ultimately, gossip reveals the fragility of our own character. It shows us the parts of ourselves we aren't ready to face, the insecurities we aren't ready to confront. But when we choose to rise above it, we reclaim our integrity, rebuild trust, and find a deeper connection to the people around us. Silence the gossip, and you will hear the truest stories, the ones that bind us together in love, respect, and understanding.